Good morning, it's today again. Welcome back to Joseph's Reserves. I'm Joseph and I store 20% of my income in the form of rare coins and precious metals. There are seasons when stacking is exciting, gold is in the headlines, silver is climbing, and everyone on YouTube is talking about how high prices are going to go. It's easy to stay motivated during those times. But then there are other seasons. There are ones where prices drift sideways or worse, they start falling, and suddenly excitement disappears. The comments change, the videos change, people begin asking questions like, was I wrong? Should I just sell it all? Or maybe I'd be better off putting this money somewhere else. If you found yourself in those thoughts recently, I just want to encourage you today. Not because I know prices are headed up next week, because I don't, and not because I have some inside knowledge, because I don't, but because I think we all need to be reminded from time to time why we started this journey in the first place. Congratulations to Maestro Metals for being the first comment on my last video. Thank you so much for the support. The race to the first comment in each video really has supported this channel in many ways. One thing I've noticed over the years is that most people don't quit stacking because they suddenly stop believing that gold and silver have value. They quit because discouragement slowly wears them down. And that's how discouragement works. It's rarely overnight. It whispers, "It isn't working. We've waited long enough. Look at what everyone else is making. You're missing out." And little by little, conviction gives way to comparison. And comparison gives way to frustration. And frustration often leads to decisions we later regret. One of the greatest enemies of stacking isn't inflation. It isn't the Federal Reserve. It isn't politicians. It's impatience. We live in a culture that rewards instant gratification. We want results immediately. If something doesn't perform within months, we assume it's broken. But precious metals have never really worked that way. They've always rewarded patience, not excitement. Think about it this way. When people plant an oak tree, nobody expects shade the next summer. They understand they're investing in something much bigger than today. In fact, some people plant trees that they'll never sit underneath. Why? Because they're thinking beyond themselves. And I've started realizing stacking is very similar. Every ounce isn't just a purchase, it's a decision. It's a declaration that you're willing to think years ahead instead of weeks ahead. One thing I've had to remind myself is that spot price isn't the same as value. And that's worth repeating. Spot price is not the same thing as value. The price changes every second. Value changes much more slowly. If silver drops $3 tomorrow, has silver fundamentally changed? No. The screen changed. The metal didn't. And in most cases, it's really just that the dollar, what we're measuring that value in, has dramatically changed. Sometimes we spend so much time watching the charts that we forget what's actually sitting in our safes. I think social media has made this harder than ever. Every day someone is predicting silver to 30, silver to 100, silver's collapsing, silver's exploding. Every thumbnail promises certainty and every headline demands emotion. Eventually you start feeling like you have to react. But what if the smartest thing isn't reacting? What if it's simply sticking to the plan that you already believed in? I've also realized something about myself. Whenever I feel the strongest urge to change my long-term plan, it's usually because of short-term emotions. And that's true in investing. It's true in relationships. It's true in life. Emotion is a terrible financial advisor. Discipline usually makes much better decisions. And speaking of financial advisors, I am not one. I'm not a financial advisor. I'm not your financial advisor. I have no idea what you are going through and what your investments are. So please seek professional advice. Don't just listen to what I say or what other YouTubers say. I'm also not saying that you should ignore reality. If your financial situation changes, if you have an emergency, if your family needs the money, those things matter. There's wisdom in taking care of your responsibility, but that's different than selling because you're discouraged. Those are two very different decisions. For me, I've never really looked at my stack as something that I was going to try to cash in on next year. Instead, I look at it as something I'm slowly building over decades. And that mindset difference changes everything, because when your timeline changes, your emotions usually calm down. One idea that has really stayed with me when it comes to stacking is the story of Joseph in Genesis. Joseph wasn't preparing because everything looked bad. It was quite the opposite. The years were plentiful. There was abundance. Most people were probably feeling very secure, but Joseph understood something. Preparation happens before it's obvious, not after, and that is wisdom. You don't build a reserves after the crisis starts, you build them while you still can. And that's actually the premise of my entire channel, Joseph's Reserves. It's based off Joseph in the book of Genesis. He saved 20% of the grains of Egypt for a famine coming up in 7 years. And I do the same with my income. My harvest is the money I get paid. I save 20% of that in the form of rare coins and precious metals so that I can lean on it for my family if I ever need to. And in these emotional times where I'm thinking about possibly selling some silver or turning some of this into cash and enjoying the growth that has come over the years, I remind myself that the entire plan, the entire idea was to build this up into something massive. It was to slowly add to it every chance I got so that it could build into a massive foundation for financial security for my family. That doesn't mean that I think precious metals can solve every problem, because they don't. They're one tool, not the entire toolbox. But for thousands of years, across civilizations, across currencies, across governments, gold and silver have remained. Empires have risen and fallen. Currencies have come and gone, yet these metals continue to hold a unique place in human history. And that doesn't guarantee tomorrow, but it certainly gives me perspective. Sometimes I think we ask a little too much of our stacks. We want it to protect our purchasing power and beat the stock market and go up every month and never correct and always validate our decisions, and that's an impossible standard. Maybe the better question isn't how much is my stack worth today, maybe it's am I still accomplishing the reason I started stacking? For me, that answer is absolutely yes. And maybe that's the exact encouragement someone watching needs today. If you've been stacking consistently, even if it's only 1 ounce every now and then, don't overlook that. Those small decisions add up. Most people don't wake up with just a massive stack after one day. They wake up after years of small consistency. And that's how almost everything worthwhile is built. One step, 1 ounce, one decision at a time. So if you're discouraged, you are not alone. Most long-term stackers have been there or are there right now. The key isn't avoiding the discouragement. The key is not allowing this discouragement to make decisions for you. So before you sell your stack, before you convince yourself you're wasting your time, before you abandon a plan you believed in for years, ask yourself one question. Has my conviction changed, or has my mood changed? Those are rarely the same thing. If you like this video, make sure to give it a thumbs up, go into the comment section to start a conversation or continue one, subscribe if you haven't already, and share the video with someone you think may need to hear this today. To my long-term subscribers, thank you so much for your continual support, and make sure you go to josephsreserves.com to check out my merchandise, coffee mugs, zip-up bags, and the It's Today Again coffee. But most of all, thank you so much for watching, and just remember, every ounce adds up, so no matter how small, just keep stacking.